Let's just hope that there is enough light for us to go through the entire thing. By light, I mean natural light, because otherwise I'm gonna have to redo everything in the middle. Today we're gonna talk about Sims. Yeah, it's my recent way of distracting myself from reality. And I mean, it's not really recent. I've been playing The Sims since they probably came out. No, I was 3 years old when it came out. Probably since I was like 7 to 10 is when I started playing the game. I played all of the iterations of it, Sims 1 all the way to Sims 4, and I have some opinions on Sims 4 that we're gonna talk about in another video, because I'm going to talk about how Sims 4 could have been fixed or how it could be fixed. And today we're just going to talk about some iconic townies. We're going to talk about obviously the Goths, for example. We're not going to go through a lot of original Sims. We're not going to cover too many of them. It's going to be around, I don't know, 8 characters, I think. 8 Sims. We're gonna start with Bella, obviously. Bella is such an iconic character, probably the most iconic character from The Sims. I think that before Sims 2, she was still iconic, but not as iconic as obviously Sims 2 made her to be. Obviously, you're probably familiar with her story, being abducted. Nobody knows what happened exactly. The Calientes are involved. Don Lothario is involved in some shape or form. There are so many families that are kind of connected to the Goths in one way or another. And honestly, the lore in Sims 2 was just so good. It did what it had to do. It created drama if you wanted it, and it left you alone if you didn't want it at all. It was perfect. First of all, I would say that Bella would have to have her iconic red dress. I wouldn't give her another everyday outfit. The red dress is just that iconic. You just have to give it to her, you know. This is what she looked like in second generation of The Sims. Also, let me know what you actually think about her personality, because obviously, just like any other Sim in the Sims franchise, they've had a lot of iterations and a lot of changes and a lot of personality changes with each iteration. Knowing EA, I just don't trust them to do the characters justice, to do the Sims justice. When it comes to the remakes in Sims 3, for example, and especially Sims 4, you can't really rely on like the personality traits or anything like that to determine what kind of Sim they're supposed to be. So let me know how you always imagined her to be, because if you look at her personality type, oftentimes she's kind of less of a exuberant type of person than I imagined her to be when I was a child. I thought that she was a lot more, I don't know, open and social than she is, or maybe, I don't know, I kind of imagine her to be a lot different than what she actually is in terms of her personality traits. And I kind of always imagine her to be like part of the Addams family, so sometimes I thought of her in more of that kind of way, especially in Sims 1, but then in Sims 2 she looks a little, like she looks so young and innocent, and I just have like a completely different feeling about her. Just to let me know what you kind of had in mind for her as like a character in your game. To talk about what I would dress her as, obviously the red dress. I didn't even look anything up that is exactly like that, just because it would have to be exactly that dress. It would just have to be recreated in a way that is not tacky, because most of the dresses that I found that were like this, the images looked tacky, so I didn't want to use them. But you can imagine it. I don't have to prove my point too much that I would dress her in that type of dress. But also, I felt like Monica Bellucci would be the type of person that would kind of represent her really well, even to the point of maybe dressing her in a black dress for formal wear or something like that. Just this era of Monica Bellucci, I don't know, reminds me of Bella and makes me think of Bella for some reason. Does it make sense to all of you? Do you see it too? Or am I the only one who's seeing this in the way that I'm seeing it? Just something about her screams Bella to me. Everything about her, honestly, screams Bella to me. And I also put this here just because of Adam's family, just to give a little bit of a nod to it, because even though it doesn't really fit the aesthetic of what I imagine Bella to be like, I do think that it fits the aesthetic of Goths, because Bella is not originally a Goth. She married into the family, so I kind of imagine her to be a little bit different than the rest of them. Still, I think that it would be really interesting to play with that whole Gothic aesthetic, but also mixed in a little bit more color into it, you know? Okay, so let's talk about Mortimer. Mortimer is also one of those characters that I still don't know how I feel about. I see him kind of like Gomez from Addams Family, but then at the same time, when it comes to him in Sims 2, I just don't feel the same way about him for some reason. Like, he just gives me a completely different vibe, and the fact that he is with a Caliente sister, the whole, I don't know, everything changes for some reason in Sims 2, and I just see him as a completely different character. Let me know how you see him as well. Do you see him as this type of character that was mourning Bella, or do you think that he's somehow involved, or do you see him as a really good husband or not? Like, just let me know, because I clearly don't know how I feel about those two characters. Even though they're so iconic, I feel like their personalities were switched around so much with all of the iterations of the game that I just don't know how I feel about them 100% of the time. It's just one of those things where I just have to decide based on the day, and I'm just curious to see what you guys think about it and how you actually see him. So obviously, because of how I see Mortimer, I had to put Gomez's images here because I think that his aesthetic, his outfits and everything fit that idea of goths for me, especially Sims 1 goth family. And also a lot of this kind of Victorian looks, or more directly gothic inspired looks for him, because he is a goth. I kind of took inspiration a little bit from the goth family in The Sims 3, where you can see how Mortimer's family was when he was a child, and to see more of like goths in action that are not specifically Mortimer and Bella. And I think that it shows what kind of aesthetic he's kind of coming from and what kind of family he's coming from, and they are a lot more goth than Bella ever was, and Bella kind of changes things a little bit in the family. But I kind of think that he would be the most directly inspired by gothic aesthetics and gothic architecture in terms of using some patterns and stuff like that would be common for it. So let's talk about Cassandra. Once again, her descriptions usually were kind of about how you never know quite what she's thinking, she's really quiet, whatever, but then her actual personality type would contradict some of those things, and I just found it to be difficult to pinpoint her. And if you look at her different iterations, like for example the Sims 4 and Sims 1 iterations, she looks like she's just wearing school uniform, private school uniform, which would make a lot of sense considering how rich they are, that they would have their children in a private school. But at the same time, in Sims 2, if you remember, she was wearing this long black dress that kind of more gothic inspired in terms of its pattern. At least when you look at really high res images, it kind of reminds you the patterns that they chose, especially when you look at the original designs for the character. And I think that I would probably want to mix edgier kind of aesthetic for her as a teen, and then change it into something a little bit more gothic as she grows older. That's kind of how I imagine I can adapt her in terms of what she actually looks like when she is a child in the game, a teen, and then an adult. One of the things is that I don't understand about the new game, she's so much paler. I feel like it's not really what the original goths, like the skin tone is way off for all of them. For Sims 4, I genuinely don't know why. In any case, this is kind of what I've been thinking for her younger days as formal attire, something with this kind of silhouette. For her everyday looks, something preppy but in black and red. I would probably try to inject some red in there just to show some of the Bella's influence too, because I feel like blue and black are very common for Cassandra, so obviously that would be her main colors in her outfits. But I kind of feel like it would be interesting to incorporate maybe one or two pieces that would be red as well, something like this for a formal attire. They do, if you think about what I put as a formal attire on Bella and on her, it looks like, I don't know, they're all wearing black, but whatever, you know, it is what it is. I just think that it would kind of suit her slightly gothic aesthetic. And then I also thought that it would be interesting to have her hair in like a hairstyle like this instead of those ponytails that she got in Sims 4. Or Sims 2, honestly, this ponytails, whose hair stands up like this if it's textured the way that it is for Cassandra? Like, no one's hair would be standing up like this if the texture is so straight. It just doesn't happen. In any case, I just think that this would be cute with the rest of the outfits. And also, as she grows a bit older, she would start to wear something that she wears more often in Sims 2, which is longer silhouettes, something along these lines. And of course, this dress that I'm using way too much in my styling videos. I use it just all the time, but what am I supposed to do if it just fits so often? with the characters that I'm talking about, so that's what I'm gonna do anyway. I'm just gonna add it again. So I think that this dress would be great for her. It's kind of like a bit of a nod to her Sims 2 dress that she wears every day. It kind of reminds me a lot of her, except for the square neckline, more of a square neckline rather than a V neckline. Alright, and then Alexander. So Alexander, most of the time when we see him, which is all 3 times that he appears in the game, he is a child, and because of the type of clothes and aesthetic that we get for Alexander, obviously there would be some spectacles, I forgot to add them, but just literally the same circle glasses. And then I also thought that again it would be a transition from this type of outfits that are kind of a little bit a little bit sailory, a little bit preppy, very black and white, to transition into his older outfits. I thought that there would definitely be a little bit of this going on for the winter months, but he would be more of a poet slash sailor aesthetic mixed with a bit of an artist, a little bit of a Victorian feel as well, but a little bit more romantic style than the one that his father has, that's a little bit more rigid and has fabrics kind of layered on top of each other instead of very fluid ones, right? So for Alexander, I imagine more fluid shirts that are softer and have more lacing and injecting a little bit pastel color here and there, layering it up, and even moving towards warm or reddish colors as his mother would wear. I just imagine him to be a little bit more of a whimsical kind of combination of Bella and Mortimer. Okay, so move on to Caliente sisters. Caliente sisters are iconic characters. I remember playing with them. I remember them being around all the time whenever I would play as Don Lothario or as the Goths. It's just they are everywhere. They're involved in the Pleasant View live. I think it's Pleasant View. I honestly, names always escape me. I'm not the best at remembering names and stuff like that, but they are so iconic. Half alien. I think that I did not realize that they were half alien until way later in the game, when I think that we were already moving to Sims 3, and then I suddenly realized, oh my god, they're also related to aliens in some kind of way, and all of those theories about Bella are oftentimes related to Nina and Dina. It's just, they're great. Great characters, again, great ideas for them, and as you can tell by the image, this iconic image, one of them was kind of gold digger and the other one is strangely enough, I guess she's thinking about woohoo, but to be honest, like, it's not really that much of, like, it's not that big of a part of her character. Again, I don't know if it's just a thing that they didn't think about, or maybe something that they kind of eventually had to think about when remaking the characters in the later games. There's a lot of differences between Sims 3 and Sims 2, Nina and Dina, and the way that they were created in general. Obviously Sims 4 looks completely different as well, but what do we expect here, you know? In Sims 2, Nina is kind of a shy, reserved Caliente sister. Like, she's more active and she's more neat than Dina, who is kind of a slob. She's very outgoing and stuff like that, which when I was little, for some reason, to me, they kind of had, like, their personalities were switched. I remember directly thinking that Dina was more of the reserved one, whereas Nina was the one that was kind of more of a party girl. I don't know why I thought that. Let me know if you also thought that for some reason. And then I remember that in Sims 3 there was again a switch in their personalities completely, and it's that one I don't really trust that it was purposeful. I genuinely think that it was just a mistake on EA's part. Wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last time, as we all know it. So I really don't know whether it was intentional or not, but I'm going to go with more of a sweet, reserved personality for Nina. And I mean, Dina is kind of sweet too, but at the same time they're both quite superficial, and Dina is also, you know, with all of her connections to wealthy older men who die and then she inherits their wealth. You know, I'm just gonna go basically with this idea for Nina. For example, I think that Nina, we're not even gonna talk about Nina in Sims 4. Just why? Like, what did we do to you to do this to us? How, in what world does it look like Nina to you? once again, the skin tones are also so off. Why are they so white? It just makes no sense. I kind of imagine her to be more reserved and more sweet nowadays. That's what I think about her. I kind of thought that this types of looks, if her hair was done in this type of way, obviously it would be red, not blonde, but this type of outfits like Britney, like for some reason Britney reminds me of her, and I think that if she was a redhead, it would be kind of like a perfect combination for her to be Nina. And a lot of very chill outfits with just, you know, like a tank top and some jeans, but 90s, late 90s and Y2K inspired outfits, but very basic at the same time. I would say that's why there's a lot of Kendall in here, because it's basic. And some girl next door kind of outfits like Britney used to wear, big pants, little tank top and some sweatshirt on top of that, a little bit of a dress like this for going out, or a dress like this to reference her Sims 3 outfit that she wears. Not necessary because I don't see her wearing that much, but it's kind of still interesting to reference all of the iterations instead of just focusing on one, even though we all love the second one the most. But still, so this is what I kind of have for Nina. Let's move on to Dina, this blonde bombshell, but at the same time also just what in their faces reminds you of their original design. That doesn't look right. You know what? The only thing that's right is this goddamn pale lipstick. Remember when everyone used to be obsessed with pale lipsticks in like Y2K times? Kind of like frosted lip. It was very common to wear really pale pink, for example. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. You know, it's just a thing that we used to do. A bunch of outfits that she wears in Sims 2. She's just like a bombshell, and also has a little bit of this basic kind of bombshell vibe to her. Obviously bodycon dresses like this, for example. This type of dress would be perfect for party outfit, something like this with a go-go-esque boots, a mini skirt, something layered on top. Very minimal model of duty kind of looks for everyday type of outfit, or something like this. It's very basic. It's a contender to being glamorous but not quite reaching it. There would be some cute looks because she's a very like attractive woman, but something along this lines, for example, for going out, reminds me of Dina, just makes me think of her and Mortimer. I don't know if any of this makes sense. Let me know if it does. Very LA look. Yeah, like very LA. So the next sim we're gonna talk about is Agnes Crumplebottom. Obviously, another iconic sim that we have to talk about. Agnes has a tragic backstory with a funny current story where she smacks your sims on the mouth. On the head? I don't know. Basically, she smacks your sim for being inappropriate publicly, which basically any type of PDA, she would just come up to you. I believe it was Sims 1 where she was doing that in an expansion pack about like dates. She would come up and smack your sims for making out in public or something like that, and would be like, oh, get a room. So she is absolutely iconic. Her backstory that kind of got developed a little bit more in Sims 3 is brilliant but tragic. She lost her fiance and then she kind of became bitter, in quotations. Her look in Sims 4, I actually think that they did a pretty good job creating her. She actually looks like Agnes, which is fantastic because most of the time you just kind of have to squint and pretend like that sim has anything to do with the original one. But what I have for her is just a bunch of Dior skirt suits from the 50s. It just looks exactly like something Agnes would wear, doesn't it? Of course the skirt is a little bit fuller than what you would expect from her, and the silhouette of the waistline, right, being cinched in is not exactly what you would expect from Agnes. That's why I added a few of other silhouettes as well, but they're all from 50s, and they're all, most of them at least, I believe, are from Dior. Classic 50s kind of look. I think that also one of my friends said that old Chanel would also work, and I think that that's true. All of those silhouettes and all of those hats. This, for example, is absolutely perfect for Agnes. Obviously it would be in gray because her color is kind of gray that she wears most of the time. This as well, with this embellishments on the sides, these little flowers out of, they're not really little, but those flowers out of beading, all of these silhouettes too. It's very much old Dior, old Chanel, 55 to 58, kind of that era would really suit Agnes and what she would wear. I mean, Come on now. This is literally exactly what she wears. So with her, it was just a bunch of suits like this. Okay, so I just saw this note that I have. You don't always need a plan, you just need balls and a beard. And it's a reference to, basically, I was looking for Don Lothario images, or images that would kind of suit him, and because I had to save a bunch of dudes that are kind of douchey looking, I got this ad for a shirt that said that, and I just thought it was so stupid that I had to write it down, because unfortunately I couldn't take a screenshot, because when I actually came back to take a screenshot of it, it was gone, because Pinterest loves to do that. It wasn't an ad, it was like a recommendation for your board, and sometimes it just disappears. Even when you click on it, it just doesn't want to open it, and that's what happened. So unfortunately I don't have it to show it to you, but it's apparently it's quite common, and it's so stupid that I just had to, make fun of it, because that's ridiculous. Don Lothario, a well-known heartbreaker. I can't. This image, when I saw it, I couldn't. That's just so good. This pose cracks me up every time I see it. Just something about it is so silly, just ridiculous. This is him in Sims 3, where he appears, because Sims 3 is on a different, it's not really on a different timeline, no. It's on the same timeline, but it's before Sims 2. So it's weird to see Don Lothario, which is an iconic Sims 2 character, to be in Sims 3 and to be seemingly older than what he is in Sims 2. And it's all because he kind of time traveled, at least it's insinuated. In the description of his character, it says that he came out of, like, he stepped into a light and then he appeared in that city or in that town or whatever, didn't know where he was, blah blah blah. Basically, it just insinuated that he time traveled, and that it had something to do with all the women that he messed with, and they kind of paid him back by messing with his life, by sending him back in time. And in Sims 4, he kind of gets this douchey look as well, which I can appreciate, but I don't think it's the right type of douchey. This looks like more of a North American douchey, and Don Lothario is more of a European douche. Does that make sense? Am I the only one who thought that when I saw the designs? I was like, yeah, like I can see that. Looks like a North American douche though, not a European one, and he seems like a very European one with his shirt open and he's like V-necks that are specific dress shirts. He looks like he's got too much hair gel in his hair. You know the type? Here he is cheating on Cassandra. I still don't understand how him and Cassandra got together. Explain that to me. Just explain it, because I clearly cannot fathom how that would even make any goddamn sense. Feeling like a Mortimer right now. Just judging from afar, really not approving of him. Well, in any case, I've got some looks for him. Maybe turn down the tattoos. Actually, it doesn't matter. You can turn them up, turn them down, doesn't really matter. A lot of tight shirts that are way too tight, ridiculously tight. You know they shouldn't be this tight. This is kind of a type of guy that we're talking about here, okay? Something like this. Adding this to my Pinterest board was the most painful thing imaginable, because I know that at some point there's going to be recommendations that are going to be related to this that are going to come up on my Pinterest board or on my homepage, and I'm going to be crying about it because I hate it so much. But you just have to do what you gotta do sometimes, for these videos and for the characters. It's not about what I like aesthetically, it's about what's right for the character, okay? Obviously an image of some dude in a Speedo, because Don he wore a Speedo, and I thought that it would be an iconic kind of piece for his character for some reason, as well as another shirt that's just unbuttoned for no particular reason, with a blue steel kind of look going on, Anyway, this is what I've got for today's iconic characters from Sims. Let me know if you want to see more of this, like talking about what the characters would look like in real life. If you have any hot takes on them as well, let me know, because I will either talk about it on my podcast or in the next video where I'm going to be talking about how to fix Sims 4. I'll be back soon with more updates about things in general. Yeah, remember, you don't always need a plan. Sometimes you just need balls and beard.